Well, hail the queen. She's here. Oh, man. What's up, Hannah? What's good?
Oh, it has been a long day.
Yeah,
I
it
I literally was finishing up eating as I was downloading Chrome to do this.
has. Well, I mean, we've had a lot of fun the last few weeks. I've been very fortunate to have, Sean, then Wild Boy. And then obviously, I have to have a queen on. So why not have, the queen of Fightful on?
Oh, yes.
So we got a lot to talk about. This week was insane. So much good wrestling. Everybody's covering Impact right now, but this is the good show. What did you think of NXT with Amber literally saying she wants the gold, which that promo was perfect.
I was really surprised actually when she came back. I mean, we did the predictions on the round table, and I did not see her being the person that came back. But I kind of figured that that's why they would send her down there, is for the gold. Because, I mean, it was kind of the same with Finn. Like, they sent him down there, and he immediately got, like, in main title picture and everything. But, yeah, I thought her promo was really good. I wasn't a fan of them doing the Toni Storm thing at the pay-per-view immediately into her because it was confusing. And I thought that really overshadowed Toni Storm saying that she was coming
to it did.
NXT. And like nobody really talked about that because Ember was back. But yeah, I thought her promo was really good. And I actually like remember it too. And it was 6 days ago. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting to see. And then you got Dexter coming back. NXT compared to Impact right now is stacked. Like literally they're 1 and 2 right now. Tim and Joel said basically in the ring said, which is Joel basically said Impact commentary on their Twitch track. Y'all get the volume on at this end. So
I enjoy Impact. I do enjoy Impact, but I don't watch Impact live. I watch when I'm working. I'm sitting at my desk right now. So I always have an iPad sitting over here and I watch Impact the next day while I work, but I don't watch it live. I don't watch AEW live either though. So
well, after the show, I'm going to watch Impact. I literally looked up and Access TV is on Comcast, which it's buried all the way down in the HD channels, like all the way down like in the 600s. So it's like you do the voice thing. It takes 5 minutes to go find it.
Right. Yeah. We have Hulu Live and it doesn't have that channel, but I have Philo, which is like $20 a month. And I got it literally just because it had like the Nickelodeon channels and stuff for my kids and it has it on there. So that's where I watch it.
I mean, NXT overall for the show was amazing. Between the women's match with Rhea, Candice and Raquel and Ember, that eclipse, oh my God, that was a great spot right there.
That was fantastic.
Just typing up something.
Fine. I'm wearing contacts, which I never do because I didn't want the light like glaring off my glasses for this. So my eyes are kind of losing it.
Well, I mean, it's fine. I mean, it's an hour show, so it's not like if anything goes wrong, which tends to happen, it will. But yeah, we had a lot of good stuff. The draft, I'm going to pull up the draft info right now, but who do you think won the draft? Because we were literally talking about that in the roundtable a little bit and wondering who was going to be number 1. And it's interesting that when Raw picked, they went with Drew, which honestly, if you took the champions out, that was an interesting thing.
Yeah.
And then me and Rob did it, and my draft went tanked when I did the Smackdown draft. But yeah, the Raw's number 1 pick in Smackdown was pretty good, but night 2 was interesting last night.
I struggle to watch Raw because it's so long and I am like usually in bed by like 8:30. So staying up till 10 o'clock for me to watch Raw is a lot. And I was staying up last night for 2 things. I wanted to see the draft and I wanted to see Ollie's promo. Well, didn't get the promo, But I did stay up to watch the draft, and I thought that night 2 was a lot better than night 1, I guess. But I think that SmackDown won it overall. And I know when I think it was WWE on Fox asked, like a lot of the people were saying they thought Raw won. Almost everyone that I like is on SmackDown, and SmackDown's a much more like ingestible show. I mean, digestible, not ingestible, because I mean, it's 2 hours and it's on a Friday. It's at the end of your week. Like Mondays, you're exhausted and it's 3 hours long. And I really thought that SmackDown like ran away with it. I mean, Raw has like New Day and Naomi and the Hurt Business. And for some unknown reason, they drafted Retribution.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I really thought that SmackDown overall, and I didn't think that SmackDown would get the people that they got. I thought that they would want to boost Raw's ratings and take a bunch of the people from Raw.
I kind of thought that the interesting part of night 2, and a lot of people don't look at it, is the way Alexa is right now. So I think that's the intriguing about this draft. Obviously, they're going to keep her and Bray together, but still, you know,
that sister I did the sister Abigail better than he did when they did it together. Like I went back and watched it again. That was, whew. Oh God, I hate him. Get away, Sean.
He's a good friend, though. So he's a good, it's to quote a line, he's a good friendo from Lars and, you know, them all doing that. But I mean, for me, I think that you're right. SmackDown did win just because of their roster. And I'm going off of Fightful right now. I mean, you know, the Street Profits was probably the steal. But the one thing that got me curious about it, looking at it, is Daniel Bryan being drafted to SmackDown. Now, I was thinking in the back of my head, does this mean Bryan might be back after the end of the year?
I think he'll be back like Rumble time, because their baby was born a little over 2 months ago. So, you know, give him 5-6 months home with the baby. And I don't think he'll be back on a full-time schedule, which I mean, right now their full-time schedule is 1 day a week because they're not traveling. But I don't think that he'll do the house shows once they get back on the road. But yeah, I definitely think that he'll be back probably like January-ish.
I love the love in the chat. Everybody's going happy go lucky right now. This is good.
Oh,
but yeah, like literally, you know, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens back, that could be a tag team. The Mysterios, obviously. I mean, if they're going to go the route of tag teams, and like, you know, Sean said, you've got Jay going on SmackDown, which means, you know, Jimmy will probably, if he comes back. I mean, there's so many things, but at a mood point about all this on night 1, it's sad about the New Day, though.
Yeah. To touch on that before we move on to the New Day, I would love to see Rey and Dominic Mysterio as tag team champions. I think that would be interesting. So much fun.
And the storyline behind that too.
Yeah, I think that would be a lot of fun. But yeah, I think my issue with the New Day thing was more like they did it and then it was done. Like Monday commentary brought it up a couple times, but like Woods and Kofi didn't even seem upset when they were like distraught on Friday. So why weren't they still upset on Monday about it? I mean, it just didn't even, I don't know. I'm very curious to see what they're going to do with E, because I would love to see him get a big singles push. He deserves it. And I think that would be great. But I also think that they could have done that without putting them on different shows.
They could have done the same route as Kofi, where they had, you know, E and Woods going after the tag titles, and
exactly,
you know, Kofi having the title, you know, itself. But I mean, that for me, when that happened, I was literally like, and to quote something I said on Warren's prediction show, and he literally went off on a rant about it. The New Day right now are split, but they're still the New Day. Do you think that at some point they're going to have to change E over into a different style, or do you think they're going to keep him at that?
I think he'll still probably come out to like New Day music and everything, but I really think that the point of putting Woods and Kofi on the other show was to let E be more aggressive. Like when he had that match was amazing. I loved that match that he had on Friday. And when he had that match, you saw a more aggressive side of him. I mean, he was always like, once he got in the ring, he was going to fight, but he was much more aggressive on Friday. And I think that he'll still have the same gear and the music and everything, but I think it's just going to be a much more aggressive person in the ring instead of like shaking his butt in the ring and stuff like that.
I actually like it when he rolled down the ramp, but that was kind of fun.
Oh my God, that was so funny. Yeah, I love Big E. I'm huge fan of Big E anyway. So you thought we both agreed on SmackDown winning the draft, but who has the better women's division now? Because literally, if you looked at it in SmackDown doesn't have a women's division.
Well, I'm saying compared to where it was beforehand, where you had like the majority of the solid of there is SmackDown having Sasha and Bailey and stuff compared to, just Asuka. Now it seems SmackDown has the better women's division out of this because they have Bianca now. That's going to be an interesting key.
Oh, for sure. But they're going to run the Bailey Sasha thing into the ground. I mean, Bianca may get a couple shots here and there, but it's going to be her losing because it's going to be them continuing the thing between Bailey and Sasha probably until Mania. So maybe after that, she'll actually get a title run because Bianca I will never understand how she didn't get the title in NXT. It does not make any sense. She should have had a title run.
It should have happened even before she got called up. It doesn't make any sense, like you said.
Yeah.
But for me, if you had to compare all three brands, and you're going to agree because you're one of the biggest NXT fans ever, NXT does have the best women's division outside of Impact, which is to me is A1 and A2. If you're not watching this, and you should, go check out Sean's interview with Deonna Purrazzo that dropped earlier this week. It was insane and fun. So
last night I was actually upset when the draft was still going on because at that point, I mean, we were like round 4 and SmackDown had drafted 3 women. They had drafted Bailey, Sasha, and Bianca. That was it. And I was like, what is going on? Like, they couldn't balance it out and give them some of their people beforehand and then give Raw. Like, it wasn't making any sense. And I think after they drafted Zelina, Natty, and the Riot Squad, maybe, after the show was over, which I thought that they might get Peyton Royce because I felt like they were going to give her a singles push, but I thought that she was going to win the Battle Royal last night too, and Lana did, so whatever.
Speaking of which, because I was going to touch on that later, what do you think of actually Lana eating 4 pins in 4 weeks, getting through 4 tables in 4 weeks,
my gosh.
And all of a sudden she has a title shot with Asuka? Well,
I said she deserves a title shot after going through. She was a champ going through that table so many times. I mean, Nia's a big girl, and Lana's like my size. I mean, her going through that table, like, she took that, and I know that Twitter was like going on and on about they were doing it to her because Miro went to AEW. Well, now she has a title shot, and she's going to lose. We all know she's going to lose, but she's getting a title shot, and that wasn't something that anyone ever thought that Lana was going to get a year ago or 6 months ago. So, and I enjoy Lana's promos. She made me laugh last night when she was like, if you want to talk about drama, I'm the one with the 2 ex-husbands and the ex-girlfriends. So I think that she's great on the mic, better than a lot of the women are. So,
I mean, if you look at Asuka's whole thing in a whole, though, the Bailey and Sasha at the beginning of her title run justified the reigns, but now it's lackluster. It's like, come on, give me something where she could just go, like, make it more evident that she belongs to be the Raw Women's Champion, because right now it's extremely lacking how that is. And I think, and I'm going to say this, and this is probably going to rub people wrong, I think Alexa is the one who's in line to go after that once her full transformation of her Jekyll and Hyde Harley Quinn character is completely established. So I'm thinking maybe like at the end of the year,
Yeah.
you know,
And I like Alexa. I know that there's people that don't like her, or think that she's not a good wrestler or whatever. I always laugh because the people that say other people aren't good wrestlers would probably die if they ever took a bump. So I'm not going to say that anybody's not a good wrestler because I'm sitting here with a heating pad on my back. So
if it makes you feel better, my back's still killing me and all that stuff. So I get it.
Literally have a heating pad. But I mean, I'd say that you're probably right. I think that's probably why they moved Nikki to Raw too, is she's probably going to lose a couple matches to Asuka. But the thing is, we all know Asuka's amazing. Like, she had that undefeated streak for so long. Like, we know that she's great. They have to give her somebody that's a real legit challenge, like a real threat to the title, and not Charlotte Flair. Don't bring Charlotte back and run that back again. Like, call somebody up from NXT. Those women, like, do something other than the same thing that we get over and over and over, and not Asuka and Bayley. Like, I'm
starting to think they should move Asuka's title and give, like you said, people in NXT a shot, and maybe have her show up on NXT just as a surprise on a takeover like Seth did years ago, and maybe say, I want a challenge, give me the best. And then all of a sudden, a good example, Io shows up.
Yeah. I really thought that like Rhea might show up on Raw, because I don't think Rhea has much left to do in NXT. I know she wasn't there a whole long time, but I mean, she's not going to get the title off Io. So call her up. Like, Rhea and Asuka would be a lot of fun.
Speaking of who popped in the chat, hey Kyler, how you doing, man?
Kyler!
Congratulations on the Lakers, by the way. Me being a Celtics fan, don't get up to 19.
I don't really watch NBA, but I was cheering for the Lakers.
Yeah, no, that's just not happening here. For me, the only person viable for anything, if they did add NXT to the draft, yeah, Rhea would make sense. But not with the way things are going with NXT, because you have her possibly feuding with Ember to become number one contender against Io. So that will be
Ember would have been a good challenger for Asuka. I mean, they have to give her someone that's not Natty, who we know is not going to win. Lana, who we know is not going to win. Like, I mean, like, when that battle royal started, I was like, really, Peyton was the only one that I thought, I didn't think that they would have Peyton beat her, but she would be like a challenge, like more of a challenger for it. Not that the other women aren't good wrestlers, but like, they had the tag team champions in there.
Yeah.
That made no sense to me.
Well, I mean, they have Zelina going after Asuka's title. It's getting to the point for me as a viewer is that it's a slap in the face just because of the fact that you have this amazing woman's talent. Like, her YouTube channel is awesome, by the way, but just that top tier talent. And what are you going to give her? I mean, yes, we're in COVID, but still give her something.
They still have people coming to the shows every week. I mean, they have all these women, and I don't know. I mean, if that's a case of them not building enough stars. They centered everything around the horsewomen for so long, and then they lost Sasha, and now Sasha's back, but then they lost Becky, and who knows if Becky will be back, and now Charlotte's gone, and so they've got the one feud that's the two horsewomen they have left, and thankfully Asuka had built her own reputation in NXT and, over the world. But now everybody else is just like, okay, well, they're not going to win. So
you see the speculation. A lot of people were saying that Charlotte was actually going to show up last night and actually enter in that.
Yeah, I saw a lot of that and a lot of the Eva Marie. And I was like, towards the end of it, I'm like, Lord, please do not let Eva Marie show up to this. Like, I was afraid that they were going to have her win it. And I know people were like mad, like, okay, I'm sure she's a very nice person, but she was not enjoyable to watch at all. So no, I don't want to see her get a title shot because she showed up after 3 years.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And a lot of people think she should pick up from where the whole, wardrobe malfunction.
Not getting to the ring and all that stuff.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense for me. But that right after that whole rumble to get the number 1 top spot in the women's, you have Drew beating the living crap out of freaking Orton, and that's awesome. That has me highly interested in it.
I need this feud to end after this match. This feud has gone on for so long. And I'm excited to see the match because they have good matches, but I need it to end after that. I got annoyed during the women's match when they cut to them fighting in the back.
Yeah.
While the women, we missed a bunch of eliminations, and then a bunch happened during the commercial because they're cutting to them fighting in the back. Like, you could have just had them come out after the match was over and fight. I laughed at the women on the ground trying to not get hit by those two as they're fighting. They're like scooting themselves over so they wouldn't get ran over.
They need to fix this division on Raw more specifically than SmackDown, just because of the fact that there's more meat on the bone with what SmackDown now has. They have a lot more tools in that division. They have a lot more things going on. It's if Raw is supposed to be, if you remember back then, the flagship, they're the bottom tier on these 3 brands, and it shouldn't be. How the hell do you get your developmental brand, the number 1 card in your company, and then all of a sudden, who Vince obviously oversees it, but Hunter runs NXT? You have Vince having SmackDown as your number 2 because of Fox, and then look at USA. They have 2 of the shows, but 3 hours of Raw. That's got to change.
And that's what one of the major issues is. And I don't know if Vince wants to change that or not. I know that there's people that work in production that wish that it was 2 hours. And I think that when the contract comes up, trying to get USA to do it for 2 instead of 3 hours, give them another. You got 8 million people on that roster. Give someone else a reality TV show for that last hour. Miz has one. Bellas have one. Give someone else a reality. You got 1 million of them, and make the show 2 hours. It is that. I literally looked at my watch last night and was like, oh my God, there's still an hour left of this. I could not believe I had only been watching it for 2 hours.
Ron just said you're natural at this.
Thanks, Ron.
It's very good to see all this stuff. Now, for me, the match on Raw that I want to see, and this scenario popped in on my way home, and I wanted to see what you thought, was one, we have Braun going against Lee. That's going to happen. But why not throw Dabba-Kato into the mix and let them 3 go at it? To quote, that is one huge layout of a match.
Yeah.
And it'd be killer.
I love Keith Lee, and I think he's so agile for a big guy. He's just amazing to see live. I was at TakeOver and Survivor Series last year what was that? TakeOver, War Games and Survivor Series in Chicago last year. I was in Portland when he had that match in February. He's amazing to see.
And you did point out about being in Portland and the round table too for the reasons you talked about too.
Yes. And so he's fantastic. And I think that it would be great. All I want out of Keith Lee is for them to let him start winning matches and all of them not come to a no finish or DQ or whatever, because it's getting really old.
It's getting redundant, actually. So, and he is so good. If you're going to give him 2 belts to be the first man in NXT to be a dual champion,
right?
Why not just let him go? Look at how, even though we don't have fans, look at the reaction that he's getting constantly.
And that whole thing was frustrating too, because I don't know what the point of giving him both belts was for him to just be like, oh, well, here's this one back. Like,
so I'm going to tote on this because obviously you and me are mods in the chat room for Fightful, and I have to, while you're on, ask this. What's the whole deal with Adam Pearce? I got you on camera. I have to ask this.
So, Adam is great wrestler. He was NWA champion and everything. Well, when he started doing like on screen in WWE, because he's a producer, but okay, I said in time that he was a producer, and he's like, I do a million things. I'm not just a producer. So, okay, he's the man of many hats, apparently, backstage at WWE, because I'm convinced he's the general manager too. But I used to like tweet like jokingly, I had an Adam Pearce spotting and things like that. And he would like the tweet or whatever. Well, we had talked back and forth a couple times. Shut up, Jeremy. We had talked back and forth a couple of times. And I met him when I was in Chicago last year, actually. The elevators, I was staying at the same hotel that he was, and the elevators at the hotel, like,
I
took
swear to
5
God,
million
Hannah,
years.
After that whole round table, you and elevators and hotels, I mean, you eyed with one eye with Shawn Michaels. And by the way, I'm not just saying this. This has actually been recorded by her and said on that round table.
That was in Portland. But yeah, so I was actually just waiting for the elevator, because the way the hotel was, there was 4 elevators, but only one of them was running after the show was over for Survivor Series. So there's 1 million people coming into this hotel and 1 elevator running. So, which it was like 11 o'clock at night. But so I'm sitting there waiting, and I wasn't even paying attention, and he just spoke to me because he recognized me and gave me a hug. And he follows me on Twitter. We talk back and forth sometimes. I tweeted something one day about him. Can't remember exactly what it was. And there was people like saying that they wanted him to slide into their DMs and stuff on there. And he was like, what is happening on your post? And I'm like, don't worry about it. Just go back to being a general manager.
It's actually fun to see, because obviously you and him, when anybody brings it up, it puts a smile on your face. And nowadays,
sometimes
with everything,
it makes me uncomfortable.
Right now, it's making me feel uncomfortable, but I had to ask.
No. Sometimes it makes me feel uncomfortable when, like, I'll say stuff and people will, like, make just, like, I don't know, inappropriate comments, because he's married. And I'm like, it's not like that, you know, like, don't do that.
But it's also good when it's somebody that cares about you puts a smile on your face, even if it's the most randomest things.
Yes.
I mean, and especially in the community we're in, the round table, that was awesome, by the way. I know we're getting off wrestling for a little bit, but what were your thoughts on being on the round table? I never got a chance to ask you about that.
It was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing it and recording it, and Sean made fun of me because of my clickety clacking, because I was working, so you could hear me typing. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I was literally sitting right here when I did it too. But I had a lot of fun doing it, and I feel like I probably pay more attention on this because I'm looking at you. And on that, I was literally like touching my phone, trying to not let the screen go black the whole time. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Talking with you guys was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's interesting for a roundtable idea, because you don't see it on YouTube at all. There's not really many people out there other than, review shows where, which honestly down the line with the pay-per-view coming up, I would love to have you and maybe DK on at the same time. Hopefully DK can get a camera at that point. But
I'll send him one.
You heard it, DK. It's on there right now.
I have his address. It's Prime Day. I'll buy him one.
Aww. But I mean, for me, it was one of those streams where I talked about Sean, and I talked to Rob and Warren about this when I first started this. It's just the idea of, because you don't see it, us as fans sitting there talking to, let's say it's you, me, Sean, and Jeremy, or you, me, Wild Boy, and Rob, like we did. There, you don't get many people other than like what you see for Quizlemania, having multiple cameras on and talking about all this stuff, where we could just sit down and talk about, the first question. What do you think? And I'll ask it again, since if nobody has listened to the podcast on the roundtable, do you think is the current state of wrestling? That's the first question I asked everybody.
Yeah. And I still stick to my answer that I think it could be so much better than what it is. And I think that I said this one day and Jimmy Van disagreed with me, but I'm not sure that he quite understood what I meant. I think that when first off, I don't think Vince needs to be in charge anymore, but I think that it should be a team of people in charge, because I don't think one person should be making the decisions. AEW, it's not Tony Khan making all the decisions. It's a team of people. Yeah. And I had mentioned Shane, Stephanie, and Triple H. And maybe he said that Shane didn't know wrestling the way, but Shane knows other aspects of it. I mean, he ran a business. Like, I think that those three with different creative ideas and hi, Wild Boy. With different creative ideas and everything. Like, I think that would be great, is having more than one person run it. And, maybe Raw would be able to, I would be able to tolerate 3 hours of Raw on Monday, because usually I can't.
Well, I think it's funny in the chat that I have a queen on screen and I have the Barry White of Fightful in the chat. I don't know. Maybe we could get DK somehow to get on and say, can't get enough of your love, babe.
I'm just glad you called him Barry White, not Barry Manilow.
I know. I got fracked for that. That was, yeah. He never lets me point that down. Yeah.
Well.
But I mean, we got a lot of stuff coming down the pike. NXT's tomorrow too. But with Raw though, it's just an interesting that half of these things with the draft, and what I'm not really looking forward to be honest, and it's making me as a fan, is just they're carrying over old storylines over to the other brands. Yes. And there are only very few fresh ideas. I mean, like Lee and Braun. I mean, you've got Owens and Alistair over on SmackDown. You have the Mysterio and Seth and Murphy thing. I mean,
I'm so sick of them, Mysterio and Murphy and Seth, and it's just, it also feels like it's been going on for years at this point. And I mean, every match that poor Dominic has been with them in some aspect. It's just let the kid do something else. And I know that Seth is probably leaving soon because Becky's due in 2 months.
I love I could pop these up, but yeah. What's up, Copa, though?
But I mean, I know that he's probably leaving soon, so this is probably, they're gonna, write him off this way or whatever to let him, he'll probably be back Rumble time. But I can't stand Seth. And it's not in he's a good heel way. I just really don't like this character. And I think it's really dull. It was a lot better at the beginning when he had all of his disciples. If you're a messiah and you have one disciple that doesn't even like you, there's probably an issue.
So this is going in the chat. I have to ask this, and you probably can see that. Yeah, Joel just asked that.
Joel, you are correct. You can't ever have me and Jeremy on the same show because we are rivals.
Don't get my wheels turning, my friend. Don't. Like I said before, the dream right now is to have Jeremy and Sean, which I know both of them would be glad to be on the show, but to do a live show with them and Denise and just people sit back and watch the brilliance of them. I mean, for me, and believe it or not, and this is kind of shocking, this is in 12 days or so, the show will be 6 months old. And that's interesting to see how far it's come. And now the format's kind of changing and evolving to where the audio is going, if you notice that a little bit. But wrestling wise, let's get back to doing most of this stuff since the chat's kind of taking it over.
I just looked over and both of my kids are asleep. Maybe I just need to do a podcast every night because that was the easiest bedtime ever.
you're more welcome on anytime. You know that. It's just these storylines need to end, and they need to further along Dominic into his growth, whether they're going to keep him on Raw or NXT or something. I was hoping they would just end that whole arc completely, and when they moved Seth, I was just like, thank God. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, the Mysterios got drafted. I'm like,
yeah. I had been told that the draft would frustrate me, like the draft, like the picks. And then as I was watching it, I was like, this is why they said that, because I'm so sick of that. And I really like Dominic, and I think Dominic has a ton of potential. I think that I think he needs to bulk up some. And I'm not of like the idea that all wrestlers need to be like these big jacked guys, but he looks like he has no muscle tone. So like when I look at his arms, it bothers me because I don't think he looks like a wrestler. And so I wish that he would bulk up a little bit, but other than that, I'm a big fan of his, but I'm really sick of this. Like,
he almost looks like he's still in his teenage body.
Yes.
Almost.
Yes. And I mean, he's young, but he could easily, I mean, Ray's like 5 foot tall and he has muscle tone. Like he could easily, work out, even if it's just his arms, because you don't really see his gear. But I wish that he would do something because it bothers me every single time.
Yeah. And that angle with Murphy and Aaliyah, that's the only thing that's keeping this going. It's, and with Murphy and stuff, I kind of think that it's time for them to move on and do something different.
I do too.
And it's about time that they figure out what they really intending to do with Dom in order to further his development. Because right now, between going to Raw and now on SmackDown with his dad, nothing all means against Ray. Ray is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. And especially me growing up in the 90s, he was, to me, one of the greatest, wrestling tacticians of his generation, if you want to call it that. But I really think it's time if Dominic to grow up and do it on his own and figure out everything, because that 35-minute god awful rant I did, is just, that shows you if I have to go 35 minutes on Raw just on this show, it shows you it's that bad.
And I think that if Ray wasn't hurt, that maybe they could push them into a tag team now, because his whole family doesn't need to be coming to the ring with him every single time he has a match.
It's like daycare.
Yeah. I mean, it makes him, my kid is 6 and he doesn't want me to walk him to the door at school anymore because he says that he's too old for that. But this kid is in his 20s and has his parents and his little sister coming to the ring every time he has a match. I mean, it makes people not take him seriously. So
it doesn't really make him serious, period. It's like, oh, okay, well, he's doing this, Yeah.
Like there's his mommy and his daddy and his little sister that's getting him in fights. And I don't know. I mean, I get that Ray's hurt. So there's, they probably want to keep him on screen or whatever. But I think that they should make them either, if they're going to have them together, make them be a tag team or let him run on his own, because it's exhausting.
How do you think they're going to write Seth off, though? Like, which way are they going to do it? They're going to have Dom do it, or they're going to have Murphy do it, and how?
I think Murphy will do it. I don't know. I mean, it may just be him. I mean, didn't he beat him up like last week?
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't even remember. I don't pay
attention. With a kendo stick, and then Seth turned it around, yeah.
Yeah, and beat him up. I don't pay attention to the majority of what they do, but I think it'll probably be a match between the two of them. Maybe at Survivor Series. That's like the last Sunday in November. So that would be like right before she's due, I think. So maybe Survivor Series, have a match between the two of them and write him off there. And then I think he'll probably come back at like Rumble and eliminate Murphy or something like that. And they'll probably like keep that going. Buddy Murphy is incredibly talented. And I wish that they would do more with him other than have him. I mean, like at first him following Seth around. Okay. He deserves more than just having matches with Dominic and following Seth around all the time.
And he's really good at, like you said, what he does. Look at the matches with Alistair. Yeah, we got over and over again, but a lot of them are really good and you see some sparks in it. But now look at the difference between Alistair and Murphy. It's literally like night and day, you know, on just based on stories and stuff. You got the pirate and you got the prodigal, you know, guy who follows puppy dog wise Seth all around. I mean, it has to be to the point where Murphy has to stand up, and I think Hell in a Cell is the perfect idea because it gives Seth a little more time to be home with Becky just to set up the last few months of the pregnancy.
Yeah. Personally, if my fiance, whatever, was pregnant, I probably wouldn't still be traveling at this point. I mean, Daniel Bryan stopped like a month before Brie was due, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure where they live, but going back and forth between Florida, probably not a grand idea since Florida is like completely open back up right now. But I don't know. I mean, it's their call, obviously, and I don't think she gets out much from what we see. So, but yeah.
I have to pop this up. I can't.
I have a terrible voice, so
that was the one thing on Twitter that everybody was popping about too. If you realized that after the roundtable, they were like, "I want to know what Hannah sounds like." And you're like, "Yeah, go here."
Yeah, well, that's what I actually told. It is a very pleasant voice. I pulled it up so I could see the comments, but yeah, I told Sean. Because he was like, I said something about like my accent and my dialect. And Sean was like, you don't have an accent? I'm like, Sean, we're from basically the same place. Like you're used to the accent of the Midwest. We live like 4 hours away from each other. So Kentucky and Illinois, we're like right there together. So yeah. I'm like, I definitely have an accent. Literally, when I lived in California, everybody would be like, where are you from?
Dude, what? We got to go to the shack, man. Yeah, trust me, I get it. I lived out in Oceanside for about 4 or 5 months, and
I lived in San Clemente.
Yeah.
So I lived like 45 minutes from Oceanside. I went to Oceanside all the time.
And I would literally, because I wasn't driving, and this is like 02 or something, I would literally walk those streets and no license, no nothing. And with epilepsy, I wasn't medically cleared in order to get a license. So, you know, on foot or hang out, have my dad drive me somewhere. So I was like, oh, why not? You know, I might as well just go on foot. It ain't like Massachusetts where everything's on the corner though.
No.
But I've gone to, my dad moved to Georgia. So literally, you know, if you hear me talk, it's like, people want to say park the car in Harvard Yard. And the most common thing to piss off anybody would be like, y'all need to go back to the park the car and freaking a and they just start laughing at me. But that's the thing with communication degrees is that they actually teach you how to cancel out your regionalism, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I work very hard on not... I did the dialect quiz thing on Twitter the other day, and I was like all over the map. So I had like Georgia and I think Missouri, and everybody was like, because everybody else's were very close together and mine were all around. Well, I've lived in California. I live in Southern Illinois. My family lived in North Carolina. My family lived in Wyoming. My family lived in Georgia. So I'm really like very widespread on the way that I speak. But when I was in California, that was constant. People wanting me to say things or being like, are you from Texas? And I'm like, I don't speak like I'm from Texas. Are you kidding me?
And the thing about it for me, it's like, I'm so used to pronouncing my R's. And Boston, a lot of people say had. And obviously, look at the show title. That's a tongue twister. Wicked Crazy. Wicked means like good or, you know, positive stuff. You know, pissa means awesome. As much as that sounds weird, but it is true. I mean,
I watched the show Wahlburgers for a long time, and I learned so much about Boston dialect from that show because I never knew what their mom was talking about.
one of these days, you after COVID, you and Sean need to come here and try Wahlburgers. It is the shit.
I have wanted to for years. I've watched that show since it started, and I've always wanted to go to Boston too, and I've never been to Boston. So
yeah, the Wahlburgers up in Linfield, the one they built is amazing. That whole area is. There you go. The whole area there is pretty good. But with the whole, we've got literally about 20 minutes or so. So we could always talk about all the life stuff like we did on the round table. So I wanted to ask you this, is that as a parent, how has wrestling impacted your kids?
So my oldest, he's asleep. He's 6. And I really got back into wrestling probably like right.
DK, they're not burgers or trash, dude. You come here and I'll show you a real Wahlburgers. Go to freaking, you know where you really should go? That's really good. Alma Nova is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And the original one is amazing. I went to that one too. But freaking DK saying their burgers are trash, dude.
But I probably really got back into wrestling like right before I got pregnant with him in 2013. So, like when he was born, I lived by myself. My ex-husband was deployed at the time, and we lived out in the middle of the country. And like in the middle of the country, 15 miles from the highway, no neighbors. And it was just me and him, and I didn't really go anywhere. And I mean, as a baby, that I would watch the pay-per-views, and, you know, they had the network at that time. So I would watch the network, and it was like fresh then. I think it started in 14, and watch the shows and everything. And by the time he was like 15, 16 months old, I have a video of me asking him like who his favorite wrestler was, Daniel Bryan. And he would say, he called wrestling, yes, yes. That's what he always called it. And so he would be like, yes, yes. And so I have videos of him telling me Daniel Bryan's his favorite wrestler and everything. And like, if you could see their playroom, we have like a big 3 plastic organizer thing from Walmart, not like the small ones, the big ones, completely full of wrestlers. They have a New Day poster up in their playroom. He's probably more into it than Reed is, but Reed still, like, he can name all the wrestlers. He likes The Fiend. That should say a lot about who Reed is as a child. That's his favorite wrestler. But, I mean, they both, like, we bond over wrestling a lot. And I took Reed to a show for his birthday this year. The Fiend and Kevin Owens are his 2 favorites. And so he got to see Kevin Owens at that show, and he was so excited. We were, like, second row, and he was just ecstatic. And Camden's been to, like, 7 shows, and he's 6. Yeah, I mean, he was upset because he didn't get to go to one for his birthday this year. So I got him the Kofi cameo and everything. And yeah.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that on there. So I'm going to give you a compliment because I gave this to my girlfriend. You ever hear the story about my mom taking me to my first wrestling show?
I have not.
Okay. About 6 or 7. My cousins got me into wrestling, and like I said, I'll be 40 next year, and my cousins are older than me, my 2 older cousins. They dragged me out of their bedroom because I was like 4 years old, and they knew as soon as I started crying, and as a 4-year-old, I would make noise and that my aunt would wake up. Mm-hmm. So they were all interested in wanting to know at 12 o'clock on NBC what Saturday night main event was. That was the first time I got into wrestling and watched it. So 3 or 4 years later, my mom's like, well, Pat, what's your birthday? It's your birthday. Whatever you want, I'll get you. I'm like, I want wrestling tickets. My mom's jaw dropped. Like cartoon, animated drop. She's like, okay, I said, whatever you want, I'll get it. She gets the tickets, and she's going around asking my uncles to, hey, Dave, can you go? No, yeah, sure, I'll take him. My uncle will be, yeah, sure, I'll take him. No. None of them took me. It was my mom sitting at this is how old I am, the old Boston Garden in a house show and Bret Hart was one of the players. Yeah, the main event was Hogan and Slaughter. I'm talking about Iran Slaughter. And literally my mom after that, after taking me to those shows and stuff, would let me watch like Raw in its infancy and stuff like that to a point. And then later on, she would sit and watch it with me here and there and just be like, I don't get it. I don't understand why you like this. And there's me being like, this is awesome.
This is amazing.
Yeah. And then I got my sister into it too and stuff. So, I mean, to tell you that you doing what you do and having them do as much as you as a wrestling fan, that is awesome. And like I say, this show is in honor of my mom, but people who are single parents like you doing whatever they can. Hell, my girlfriend does everything she can for her kids and goes above and beyond. And I see it and I tell her all the time how great, how amazing it is. You know, there's very few people. So, I mean, just all I have to say is, you know, keep doing what you're doing, because obviously, you know, being reminded of somebody who's, you know, no longer in my life makes me admirable of saying that one day they'll say the same thing I'm saying to you right now.
I appreciate that. And that's actually, I'm going through court right now. And that was one of the things that my attorney actually put in papers. I hadn't included it, but she put in papers about how I take them to wrestling shows and watch wrestling with them, because that's something that we do together, family, everything, and they absolutely love it. I mean, Camden was, for his 3rd birthday was when I took him to his first show. That was the show that he got the high five from John Cena. And he got an autograph from Seth Rollins and an autograph from Bailey, and Bailey told him he was adorable, and he still talks about that. He was like 4 at that point. And he had Gold Dust talk to him, and Braun Strowman got on his knees and gave him Nux. And yeah, he remembers all of that. It played such a big part in him being such a big fan.
I love people instigating.
Well, he's the one taking me back to court, not me. So he's trying to run my bills up. But yeah, so I mean, I love taking them, and I'm glad that they enjoy it as much as I do, because I would probably still make them go even if they didn't like it. But I do like going to shows without them too, because it gets exhausting. We go to the bathroom 87 times when I go to shows with them.
Well, you also need a peace of mind for yourself too, because that way it makes it better for you. It's interesting just because in life, you know, like we talked on the round table too, considering he's in the room, you know, DK and me are like kindred spirits with the whole situation. Mm-hmm. Me and you are, because like I said, my mom was a single parent. My girlfriend's a single parent. You know, my best friend is, you know, it's just those people I have admired just because I'm a kid of 2 things. I'm a kid of a divorce, and I'm a kid of going through a single parent. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to be a heads up is that the most gut-wrenching thing is absolutely, like I said, it's been well known about me, is that my mom, you know, was just going through it all. Well, that's why I tell people, you know, you remind me of her because you're doing what you can, and sometimes sacrifices has to be done. You know, at one point we had to decide whether she had to decide whether to put clothes on our backs and fix the car or fix the house. And she decided to give us what we needed rather than the house. So those pictures that I showed her in the backyard, that's kind of what it was like when she picked. But
yeah, and I understand that too. As a single parent, I am in a better spot financially than I was at the beginning of my divorce. But I mean, we lost our house, we lost everything, and I wasn't getting child support. I wasn't getting any help, and I hadn't worked in a couple of years. I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I was still in school, finishing my bachelor's degree. And it was a lot. So I completely I mean, there was times where I would eat, you know, nothing for lunch, or just whatever was left from whatever I had fixed the kids, because I couldn't afford any more food than that. And I completely understand. Thankfully, I'm I have a better job now and we have insurance and things like that. And I'm finishing up my master's, but it's a hard spot to be in. And I admire anyone that is a single parent and goes through that without a cooperating co-parent or, you know, someone that pays their child support or anything like that, because it's a lot. It's very stressful.
Well, also you have to incredibly add more to those t-shirts. You have to. How many are you at right now?
I think we're on 73. Today was, well, I haven't posted it yet. I changed already because I took a shower, but I had on a Brie Bella shirt. I have maybe like 20 left. I pulled out all of my dream shirts and threw them away. And I think those were the only ones that I had to get rid of. But yeah, so we're getting there. Actually, my Brie Bella, I had a Brie and a Nikki Bella shirt both that somebody was selling like locally for like $1 a piece. I'm
Damn.
like, yeah, I'll take those. Oh, one of my kids is up. Hi.
Y'all still showered? Thanks, my friend Joel.
Yes, Joel, I'm still showering.
I mean, at least, you know, you could say in this community, and we've talked about it, and that's the key thing about the round table, is that you're bringing people who have the same things or connections or stuff like that in this community. I think, if I remember right, because it's been over a year, I think you and DK were the first ones to say hi to me in the chat when I first walked into it.
Probably.
Yeah.
I used to be in the chat a lot more than I am now. Now I typically turn on the show and listen to it while I'm working out or whatever I'm doing at night. Last night I was actually listening to Sean and Denise as I was like getting ready for bed. So I usually I'll pop in and out, but I usually don't monitor it the way that I used to. But yeah, probably.
Yeah, it's still a fun family that we have, very dysfunctional, but still fun. Well, I mean, we've got 3 more minutes. If you want us to kill 3 minutes till we get to the 60 mark, I mean, the other thing is that people are clamoring is what's going to happen with the other belts, Miss Queen of all the belts.
So, did I tell you guys I was giving 2 of them to one of my friends?
Yes, you did, and you stated who they were in the round table.
Yes. So he is a producer for WWE and he works in Stanford. And no, he doesn't tell me anything because he says that Sean has my phone bugged. So he won't tell me anything. Trust me, I don't get spoilers from him. And I don't tag him and stuff on Twitter because I'm always afraid that people are going to go bug him. But I am giving him, I still haven't shipped them yet.
No.
But I'm giving him the 2 tag teams. And I think that I might sell one of the wing. I don't need 2 winged eagles. So I think I'm going to sell one of them because I want to buy the Cena spinner, the Eddie Guerrero, the Shawn Michaels, the Eddie Guerrero and Shawn Michaels editions of them, the China belt, the Divas butterfly. What am I going to do with all these belts? I don't know.
It's
I don't
the
even
same
have
way people say about jerseys with me.
Yeah, or my t-shirts. I had to buy a freaking armoire to put all my t-shirts in, and I don't even have my office finished, so I can't put all the belts in my office. So my desk is literally in my living room. You're gonna have to hold on. Okay, go.
Well, we just opened a bidding war for the winged eagle now, so this is gonna be fun. Anyways, I appreciate you, Hannah. Like I said, before we got in, I did apologize for that edit. Nobody will understand.
Yeah, it's fine. I didn't even catch it. So
yeah,
it's fine.
But for me, it's one of those things. It's I'm loyal to the people that you care about. So, and that's very hard to find even in communities that we have because people don't really understand a lot of things. Like me and DK could turn around and say, make nicknames like Anakin JNT is the baker of Fightful, and you're the queen and he's the Barry White. Yes, I didn't say Manilow this time. and then your boy Rob Wilkins and stuff. But I mean, and then Sean's got so many nicknames.
So many nicknames. And it's so awkward when I talk to people that, like you, I can just call him Sean. But like other people, I'm like, do I call him SRS? Because I literally never and have never called him that. Or do I say like Sean Sapp? Or do I say Sean Ross Sapp? And then I just feel, I'm like, how do I address this man when I'm talking about him? Like, do I just say the Dong Lord of Fightful? Like, what am I supposed to say here? I was actually talking to Big E the other day, and he was like, we have met before. And I said, yeah, in Chicago, when I asked you to take a picture with me for Sean Ross Sapp. And I'm like, could he just have a shorter name? Could it just not be 3 names?
If it makes you feel better, right? Because in my family, if my mom used to say my first full and my middle name and my last name, like every parent does, but she'd go one step further and go to my confirmation name, not as soon as I got older. So literally it would be like a whole mouthful, and I would be like, oh crap, a 5'2" woman with a frying pan in her hand and spinning it. Trust me, that puts fear in any guy. I don't care who you are.
That's good. My kids don't even usually get their names unless they're in trouble. So they know. Like, they know when they're in trouble.
Well, we got a good community here. We got DK in the chat. Jeremy was here. Sean's been in and out. We've got so many good people. I want to thank you, by the way, for being a good friend and being there. I've got a big, I know I put this on Twitter, but your boy Tim Traver is going to be doing a podcast with me very, very soon, and it's going to be airing on soon. So that will be recorded tomorrow, and it'll be out on Saturday. Like I said, I would love to have you to do the prediction show on here. At some point, we're trying to organize this. We're trying to do because of DK, Anakin, and Rob, we're trying to do a food and wrestling episode. I don't know how this is going to work. I
just like to eat, so I mean,
I'm a big boy. I'm like 6 feet 280. I'm a big boy, but
you should have seen me shoveling in that spaghetti before I was going live with you. I'm like, can he see me yet? And I'm like shoveling spaghetti in my mouth.
But yeah, it's very fun to have all these people on, and I feel honored to have you on, considering the fact that, a lot of times when you post stuff, I usually hit you up and tell you, hey, keep doing what you're doing.
And I appreciate it.
We need that nowadays, especially. Like I said, the format of the show is changing. So if you notice with the audio. Speaking of All Hail the Queen, I wanted to tell you this before, and if I didn't get copywritten, I was going to play God Save the Queen when you walked in. Just to make everybody pop.
Yeah, they would have definitely immediately
cut
you're done.
Me off.
You're off.
But Hannah, tell them where they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram at All Hail Han, 2 N's. And I think you can find me on Twitter at Your Queen Han.
It's actually scrolling right underneath you right now.
Your Queen Han. I just changed it like a month or so ago, so I couldn't really remember what it was. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Your Queen Han for all of your shitty wrestling takes. That's what I'm there for. And that's pretty much about it. Yes, it's Han and not Han, as Adam Cole pronounced it the other day. He laughed and called me Queen Han, and I'm like, maybe I'm in Star Wars.
Also, you can find her in a lot of other formats. She goes to, church sometimes on Sundays with Joshi Church. She pops in there sometimes, like I do here and there. You go in Denise sometimes. It's fun to have a very supportive community, and you're here, and I appreciate that. But at the end of the day, if you guys want to know what's going on, Hannah will be always a part of the show in one way or the other. Fightful's got a big day tomorrow. you got Ulysses and Boy tomorrow. You've got, the Wednesday Night Wars. You got, Jeremy, if he's still around listening, trying to dodge Uno predictions, I guess.
And Uno's on
Sean
tomorrow on Up, Up, Down, Down. That's why we have an Uno war going on. It's because of Up, Up, Down, Down.
And you got to get a title belt for that. Anyways, and then, next week, I'm going to try to get the prediction show lined up with Hannah. And hopefully if Amazon allows it and Hannah gets it to him quick, DK could be on there and you can finally see that beautiful voice with a beautiful face. Hit the like it says, and subscribe, tap the bell for all notifications. Click on the link on the bottom. Let me grab this. Two Sisters, One Machine made this. Obviously, I'm putting over my girlfriend's mini company. And again, guys, this is excellent work. They do really good things. Go on that and join that group. And, with Christmas coming on, it's a good way to actually support, other people doing certain things, especially in COVID, making things by hand. She made that from scratch. She bought the shirt and cricketed that whole thing by herself.
Amazing.
Other than that, do a good deed, pay it forward, guys. It's going to be a fun week. Next week, we'll see who we can get on and have fun. Hannah, if you're free on a Wednesday, we could actually record the prediction show and let's kill it. I appreciate everybody the last 3 weeks, and I appreciate the community in whole. Do a good deed, pay it forward. This is all hail the queen, and this is me. Have a good night, guys.